Hey everyone, Tyler here at The Movie Beat. Welcome back to another video. This one's going to be another addition into my underrated parentheses K-horror films that I feel like don't get as much love as they should. So a bit underappreciated in my opinion. So this one, I'm going to be talking about a movie called To Sir with Love, or the English title that I prefer, Bloody Reunion. So with this series, I'm really trying to hit lots of different styles of horror. So volume 1 with Cinderella, I feel like was more of a dark fairy tale, a little bit of body horror in that one. Volume 2, Sorum, was more domestic horror, much more realistic. Volume 3 with The Red Shoes, I felt was more of a psychological horror film. And now this one, it is a slasher. So not many slashers in Korean horror landscape, so it is unique in that sense, and that's part of the reason why I chose it. So this one was directed by Im Dae-woong, and it has a pretty big cast, but I think maybe someone you might be familiar with is actress Seo Young-hee, who is probably the standout star of this one. So just a little bit of intro. I do feel like this movie being made in 2006, it's kind of interesting to look at just the kinds of movies that were coming out at that time, because in the early 2000s, mid 2000s, Asian horror films and Western horror films were pretty distinct from one another. I do feel like on the Western side, you usually had like a group of acquaintances that, you know, for whatever reason, one by one, or start getting picked off by a very uniquely styled serial killer, whether they're wearing a mask or they've got some kind of a special weapon. They just look very distinct. It's not just a guy. Asian style horror tended to be more psychological creepouts that had women, long dark hair, black hair, and usually that's a ghost that has some kind of a vengeance it's carrying out, usually aimed at school-aged girls. So I do feel like Western audiences did get their first taste of Asian-style horror with a lot of the remakes that came out at that time, like The Ring, Dark Water, Pulse. That was kind of also happening, I think, across the ocean here in Korea, as this director was putting more traditional American slasher horror tropes into this film, To Sir with Love. So I do feel like this one draws a lot of inspiration from movies like Friday the 13th and at least at the time, the more modern horror films like Hostel, which came out the year before. The nice thing about this movie is that in classic Korean style, it does double down on some of the drama aspects of this movie, especially in terms of story. And for that, I do feel like this one stands out as one of the more unique horror hybrids out there. Also with this movie, just by saying this, I'm afraid of saying this, but it does have some of the better twists that I've seen. I didn't want to say that because that could ruin twists, but I'm going to keep this review as spoiler-free as possible. So just want to say that up front. So I'm going to get into the story real quick. It is spoiler-free though. Widowed and suffering from ill health, retired primary school teacher Park Yo-woo, played by Oh Mi-hee, has been receiving personal care from a grateful former student named Mija, played by Seo Young-hee, who is now studying to become a teacher herself. Mija decides to organize a reunion among her former classmates in the hopes it will raise Yo-wook's spirits. Now, 16 years after graduation, 7 classmates will reunite at their ailing teacher's seaside house to personally convey their sincere regards to her in what may be her final days. Now engaged to be married, former class president Seo, played by Yeo Hyun-soo, and former class vice president Eun-young, played by Seol-ah, are first to arrive. They're followed by the beautiful Sun-hee, played by Ji-hyun, who has undergone a huge physical transformation after losing weight and receiving plastic surgery. The great former athlete Dalbong, played by Park Hyo-jun, and the strong and handsome Myung-ho, played by Dong-kyu, as well as the shy loner Jung-won, played by Jang Seong-won. Upon arriving, each of the former students expresses their thanks and best wishes to their teacher. But as the evening progresses, the students' memories of the time spent with their teacher Park begin to reflect a darker reality, as tensions run high amidst an ever-growing list of grievances against their teacher. An unexpected guest harboring the ultimate grudge sets to crash the party and arrives with deathly intentions to inflict maximum pain. So this movie, To Sir With Love, or as I said, my preferred English title, Bloody Reunion, is really based on that concept that's particularly strong here in Korea of giving thanks to teachers. We do have that in America where I'm from, but I noticed it's very strong here. There is an actual holiday called Teacher's Day where a lot of the students, really regardless of your age, they bring gifts and write cards, and it's usually, wish you all the thanks and all that. But the interesting thing about this movie is that the production team did a street level survey of 1,000 individuals and asked them about their experiences in school, and the results were pretty shocking. 98% of them said they still harbor some kind of a pain from a very negative experience that they had during their school days, and they attributed that to their teachers. But in a culture that really sort of promotes a level of respect towards elders or any persons of high status, when someone is wronged or felt to have been wronged by a person in one of those positions, people really take on the attitude of shut up and bear it. So on days like Teacher's Day, if you were one of those people and felt that, you came in with a smile, you wrote your thank you card, and you wished your teacher the best. So this movie also kind of is trying to play into one of the responses that it got from that survey that the production team did, and said, if you could meet one of those teachers today, what would you say? And like 85% of the people responded they would ask their teacher why they did that. So this movie seems like it's trying to give or at least manifest that experience to some degree for people in the theaters, as this group of 7 students gets that chance to ask their teacher why. The characters in this one really do run the gamut of having negative experiences felt in school, whether it was being ostracized for being poor, ugly, fat, whether they had unrealistic dreams, and it even goes to like physical abuse and sexual abuse. So there's a very heavy undertone to the film that feels very serious at times, and I do feel like they went with that slasher side to try and drive some of those points home. Unfortunately, though, I do think with all of that heavy drama that sets up the circumstances for the horror in this one, the slasher stuff kind of seems to come out of left field. And on one hand, I do like when movies really change it up. I like a surprise, but this one really takes a true horror approach to the drama, and when it starts trying to employ a lot of the outrageous horror elements of, say, a slasher film, I feel like this movie kind of lacks that special, slow creep up, or at least realm of entertainment where I can buy into that, because it doesn't seem to fit with a lot of the heavy drama in this one. That's unfortunate because visually, the kill setups and everything in this are on point. This movie has some great scenes of stalking and other gruesome scenes of torture, with some of the most blood-soaked death scenes that I've seen in a Korean movie. The ensemble cast overall is really great. I feel like every actor brought a unique sense of individualism and personality to their role, so kind of like a typical slasher that you would expect. They do try to fill a lot of the types of people. You get the handsome jock guy, the beautiful kind of not so smart girl, the loner, the old class king, queen, president, vice president. They try to do that, but I do think it does it pretty well. Some of the standout characters for me were Park Hyo-jun, who is always going to be, for me, Hamburger from Once Upon a Time in High School. There was a lot of layers to his character, so I really liked him. But I do think Seo Young-hee, who you'll know from Bedeviled or the more recent Night of the Undead, she was really the standout star in this one, and she delivered for me one of the most contrasting performances I think right behind Bedeviled, because she goes from being like the cutest, prettiest, nicest girl in town to the one you should fear the most. And I did really like that stark contrast in her character, so she delivered it really well. I think this movie, To Sir With Love, is engaging on so many levels. Story, characters, filmmaking style, especially in the first 45 minutes. But I do think it is a bit unconvincing in perhaps its most important category, the horror category, because it is a horror film, but it almost feels like the slasher elements were kind of hastily written on top of a more intense, dramatic script. So I don't know exactly how the writing process went in this one, but it felt like that at times. This movie, though, is redeeming in the sense that it has great performances and it is got that unique style of horror on the Korean cinema landscape that is just so unusual to see, because K-horror today is filled with ghosts or zombies, and it's mostly psychological horror, if not one of those. So taking the traditional slasher approach, To Sir With Love really stands out, and I do think it's a bit underappreciated for the ambition that it had and just style that it employs. So let me know what you guys think of To Sir With Love, aka Bloody Reunion, if you do watch it. I'm going to rate this one a 6 out of 10, and I do want to show off my beautiful limited edition 2-disc digipack. I miss these limited edition DVDs from Korea. So it's got a really cool full slip case with a lot of texture on it. It's almost like a canvas, like it was painted. You got the teacher here, she's in a wheelchair, got her neck held back, so really kind of a weird look to it, so it's eye-catching. And you've got all of the classmates here ready for the reunion, holding up the wine glass, getting ready to party. It's gonna be a strange party. The back, it's got the disc information, but it's, yeah, awesome full slip case. And the digipack, you know, they don't just fold out. There's usually a cool insert or something like that. So you got the flower here. Usually they give a flower for Teacher's Day. The back, teacher, I love you. It's like, oh really? Yeah. Inside, here's that cool fold out. That's disc 2. Question mark. Who's behind there? Okay, kid is not having a good day, and perhaps his teacher is not doing anything to make that better. So, a little bit of insight on how this film goes down. Character introduction, actors, there's the teacher. This folds out. Disc 1, great looking disc with the cast. Pretty shiny, get to see all the actors there. And I really like when you take the discs out, there's a hidden image. Underneath. So a really well-designed full slip case, digipack edition, limited edition. So I highly recommend trying to track this one down if you want to own it. So that's going to be it for this one. Again, everybody, thanks again for watching. As always, you guys feel free to connect with me on Instagram, Facebook, Letterboxd. Please like and subscribe if you want to see more like this in the future. Until next time, I'm Tyler at The Movie Beat. Keep watching movies.